Even if you've never worked in radio yourself, you've probably seen one of these microphones used in any sort of a depiction of a radio station or studio, the venerable ElectroVoice RE20. They're the de facto standard when it comes to a microphone for use for voice tracking and voiceover work for radio. And they've also been in production since the 1960s, so they have certainly been around for quite a while, and even in this day and age, they are still one of the most popular microphones found in radio applications. They certainly command quite a large, expensive price, even used. You can see here that pretty much the cheapest one you're going to be able to find is in excess of $290. So certainly not a very cheap microphone when you compare it to something such as a Shure SM58. Recently though, ElectroVoice, back in 2011, created a newer model but with a cheaper price tag. And here's the microphone, the ElectroVoice RE320 with variable D, which eliminates the issues and pitfalls that are associated with proximity effect. Unlike the RE20, this is engineered in USA, but it's not assembled in the United States of America. It's assembled in China, whereas the RE20 is still assembled in the United States in this day and age. Looking on the back here, it once again mentions and boasts of its variable D technology. This has a 2-position frequency contour switch, which essentially allows this microphone to be 2 microphones at once, giving it something of a dual personality. It really is quite a nice welcome addition. You can see the switch right over there, and mentions of its unsurpassed tonal performance for voice or instruments. The microphone comes in this padded carrying case. It's actually a hard shell carrying case, which is quite useful for transporting this microphone around without fear of breaking or damaging its internal components. And you also do get a sort of specifications chart here, which will just familiarize yourself with the microphone's technical specifications and capabilities. And without further ado, I present to you the ElectroVoice RE320, designed in 2011 and still in production, obviously enough, and an inexpensive counterpart and companion to the famed ElectroVoice RE20. And right off the bat, it's actually a very heavy, sturdy, and robust feeling microphone. This is a dynamic microphone, of course, so it goes without saying it's going to be a fair bit more resilient and durable than a condenser microphone, but it's got a nice hefty weight to it, which is something that can't be said for a lot of other dynamic microphones. It just has a very nice solid feel to it. Now this specifications chart comes in handy for showing one of the main features and selling points, and that is its dual personality switch. You can see that this switch has 2 separate positions. There's a flat setting as well as a contour setting as well here. And if we take a look right here, we can see mention of what that switch happens to do. In its regular general flat position, its frequency response extends from 45 Hz all the way up until 18,000 Hz, but engaging that kick curve setting allows us to get an additional 15 Hz of low range frequency in there, 30 Hz all the way to 18,000 Hz, which actually makes for a very, very nice, pleasant sound akin to that boomy radio announcer voice that we've all come accustomed to hearing. And it also has a higher and hotter output than that of the RE20. And that is certainly bound to be a problem for some people whose mixers only have enough gain, or perhaps whose preamps or mixers have very poor preamps, and so when they turn up the gain and have to crank it all the way up to get a usable signal out of the microphone, it introduces quite a bit of, and I just pressed the phone, it introduces quite a bit of unwanted hiss and noise into the signal chain. And so because of that, people are needing to buy something such as this cloud lifter device to increase the amount of gain that is output from the microphone before it ends up going into the preamps on your analog to digital converter or your mixer itself. However, for the most part, with the ElectroVoice RE320, that's pretty much not a requirement, because its output is so much higher than that of the RE20 and RE27 ND. So you can see it shares the same design as the RE20, You are supposed to speak into the top of the microphone. This is a top address microphone, not a side address microphone. They also do give you this microphone clip when you buy one of these microphones new, which is a nice addition. Only problem with this thing is if this breaks, you're out $50 because that's essentially what they cost on Amazon or eBay or even used, and it's very hard to find a generic replacement. This has a very pleasing brushed black aluminum finish. You can see there's that dual personality switch. It's right now in the kick curve setting, but you can simply change it to the flat setting. It does feel like a plastic switch. It might break after a bit of use. And you might just have noticed this plastic nub sticking out of the bottom part of the microphone. This is to assist with locking and preventing this microphone from coming out of stands. You simply slide it into place in between this little groove here, and then after tightening the stand up, the microphone is essentially locked in place and unable to slide out very easily. Now, something I also bought in addition to this microphone, and it's certainly a necessity, or at least a bit of a necessity with this microphone if you tend to use it in a somewhat noisy environment, or at least in a room that isn't properly insulated and picks up a lot of vibrational noises throughout the floor, walls, and ceiling, is the ElectroVoice RE320 shock mount, also made by Bosch Security Systems Incorporated. This is the shock mount fully assembled. The microphone slips into here, and I'm sure by now this is looking very familiar to those of you perhaps in radio or people who are familiar with what a radio station usually looks like and the equipment that's used. This is the infamous ElectroVoice Model 309A shock mount used with, once again, the venerable ElectroVoice RE20. This fits both the RE20, the RE320, and the RE27ND. Now, when you get your shock mount, it's not going to look this way. It's going to be fully disassembled, and it is a bit of a complicated process getting it set up and put together. However, ElectroVoice went to the trouble of making a YouTube video showing you how to accomplish it in relatively no time at all, which certainly saved me quite a bit of trouble and effort, because this instruction is really not all that helpful. I don't even think it tells you how to properly assemble it. It just gives you some vague instructions, if anything. Now, this shock mount has a total of 4 of these rubber suspension pieces here. They are completely rubber, and they stretch onto these back posts as well as these front posts. And then once this is hanging in place, it really helps to get rid of all that rumbling, that low frequency rumbling sound that makes its way into the audio output of this microphone. And one thing I neglected to mention, amazingly, is that this does come with a little thumb screw here, which affixes to the tripod mount on your boom stand or microphone stand, and allows you to swivel this device around as you please. But enough of my showing the microphone and the shock mount stationary. How about I show it in use? Well, before I do that, I should probably show you how to affix this microphone, or at least show you what I alluded to a bit earlier, and that is to say and speak about this plastic peg. If you look here on this shock mount, you'll see that there is a small little groove notched into the plastic shock mount, which allows you, yes, you guessed it, to insert the microphone as such. Doing so, you can see it pops into place, and then you're supposed to slide the microphone slightly to its side so that you can't easily pull the microphone out until you slide it back into the correct position, and that plastic peg lines up with the notch in the shock mount. And then tighten up this thumb screw on the back, which will screw into the bottommost portion of the microphone. So if you're not careful, it will end up scratching and dinging the plastic, but it shouldn't make too much of a difference if you're careful. I don't know how well this is going to work with my doing this one-handed, so you'll have to forgive the shoddy camera work. But if I go ahead now, and you can see I could attach this right here, I just need to use that thumb screw right over there to connect it up to this portion of the threaded mount, which, as you loosen it just ever so slightly, allows you to swivel the microphone easily back and forth, although you do want to make sure to tighten this up every now and again, or you risk having the microphone slam down to the ground because this thumb screw is loosened up completely. And I've gone ahead and strung the XLR cable and connected it up to the back of the microphone. And the only issue I've ran into this so far is that of plosives. ElectroVoice claims to have about 2 or 3 inches of foam windscreen material in the topmost portion of this microphone above the element portion. ElectroVoice actually does sell a pop filter, a foam pop filter, However, I just so happen to have this one on hand, and it fits this microphone perfectly. If I didn't know any better, I would be under the impression that this is a genuine ElectroVoice microphone pop filter, specifically made for this microphone. And now you get to see what I mean. You can see it fits this microphone perfectly, covers the topmost portion of the microphone, the part which you speak into, and will completely mitigate and eliminate those popping P's and all those sort of unwanted microphone artifacts that are introduced when you speak into a microphone closely. Now, if you're really committed and involved with getting the best possible look from your microphone, I'm perfectly fine having a foam windscreen, but some people don't like the look of it. You can buy an RE pop filter being sold by Broadcast Supply Worldwide for a whopping $60. Microphone not included. Here we are on the ElectroVoice RE20 dynamic microphone. The dual personality switch on the rear of the microphone is now set to the flat position, and this does give us the truest reproduction of sound. It doesn't EQ anything. Also, as a sidebar and a side note here, I'm not running any audio processing, equalization, or compression on this microphone. I simply have the preamp set to about the, I want to say the 4 o'clock position right now. It's significantly higher than the setting I had to use for my condenser microphones, and so it does introduce a bit of hiss, at least during the silent portions. However, I can't imagine how much gain would be required to get a usable signal out of the RE20, especially on these newer mixers that don't provide enough gain from the get-go. And now, without further ado, I'll go ahead and switch over the dual personality switch to the kick drum setting. And while I have no kick drum to demonstrate that EQ setting, you're going to hear an immediate difference that certainly is a sound reminiscent to that of big radio stations. And now I've gone ahead and changed the EQ switch. It's gone ahead and taken a bit of the mid frequencies out, and it's boosted up a little bit of the bass frequencies. Of course, it can go all the way down now into 35 hertz territory, and so it allows us to have a bit of a bit boomier of a radio sound. And the fact that it's cutting a bit of the mid frequencies, it does help to get away, mitigate some of the sibilant issues that a lot of people notice and run into with the ElectroVoice RE20, RE320, and the RE27ND. So it gets rid of those inherent sibilant issues. And now, as promised, I have gone ahead and engaged the breakaway broadcast processor, and you could hear that this, I'm speaking at the same volume, I'm speaking at the same general tone that I was prior to engaging the processing, and this has made a world of difference. I have that radio announcer sound that everyone strives to imitate, and really helps to give you that, to give your voice that presence that it needs to cut through the distractions, especially in radio, or podcasting, if people are attempting to listen to your show in a car, on the go, jogging. And so that is going to conclude this little demonstration, test, and review of the ElectroVoice RE320 and its accompanying ElectroVoice Model 309A shock mount. And I certainly think that this is definitely a nice contender against the well-known ElectroVoice RE20.